Beverly Hutton, and I am the Deputy Executive Director of Programs and Services for the National Association of Secondary School Principals, which is typically called NASSP. And we are delighted to welcome you to this event today. Today we are going to discuss the assistant principalship. NASSP has, since 2011, designated a week in April to pay tribute to assistant principals who, in our view, are unsung heroes of the school leadership team. In fact, each year, NASSP has 50 state affiliates, and those state affiliates nominates an assistant principal from their state to contend for our prestigious Assistant Principal of the Year award. And those individuals come here to Washington, D.C. for several days to participate in some professional development that is particularly relevant to assistant principals. They go to Capitol Hill to meet with their legislators, and to advocate for any of the emergent issues that are on the educational landscape at that time. So, happy Assistant Principals Week to all of you who are assistant principals and you have tuned in with us today. NASSP recognizes the value of assistant principals. We know assistant principals are literally involved in every single aspect of the school community. They work with teachers, they manage students, they communicate with parents, and they collaborate with their administrator colleagues. The assistant principal's impact on the school is undeniable because they are the glue that holds the school's culture together. Yet, we also know that the assistant principalship is typically an untapped area of school leadership potential because, number one, their role is not always clearly defined, and the supports that are needed for ongoing professional development are not always readily or strategically available. So today, we have invited a district that has been working on developing effective approaches to the development of the assistant principal position. So we invite you to participate in the conversation. And this conversation will focus on how the assistant principal's role is shifting from traditional support and managerial position to a multifaceted dynamic leadership role that is more defined and will play a more intentional role in the school learning environment. So I'm really pleased to introduce to you today's facilitator of our discussions, Andy Cole. Andy is a consultant for the Wallace Foundation, and he serves them as the manager of special projects, and he is a lead reviewer for the Leadership Pipeline grant programs. NASSP is a Wallace Foundation communication partner, and we're really pleased to present this event to you today. And please welcome Andy Cole. Andy?
Thanks, Bev. Good afternoon and welcome to our program. I wanted to welcome the Prince George's County team as well as all of you out there to participate in our program. And I'm looking forward to what I think is going to be a really robust conversation. Before we go into the introductions, let's deal with some of the logistics issue. So on the right side of your screen, you'll see a toolbar which you can use for questions and answers. And if you have any issues, look at the event page for an email address, and you can send an email in case you're having any issues. So with that being said, let me try to introduce our excellent panelists and looking forward to this conversation. So I'd start with our APs, who are basically our guests of honor for this week and especially for this particular program. And I'd ask Katrina and William to introduce yourselves and start with them, and then we'll work around the table.
Good afternoon. My name is Katrina Lamont. I am an assistant principal at Ernest Everett Just Middle School. I have been an assistant principal with Prince George's County Public Schools for 10 years, and it is indeed an honor to be participating with this conversation.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. William Blake. I'm assistant principal at Dr. Henry A. Wise Junior High School. I have been serving in this role for the past 5 years, and I am delighted to be a part of this national conversation around building assistant principal capacity.
Oh, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Damaries Blondonville. I'm the project manager for the Wallace Grant in Prince George's County Public Schools, and I'm just delighted to be part of the conversation today.
Good afternoon. My name is Jerenze Campbell. I'm the Supervisor of School Leadership Programs for Prince George's County Public Schools. Thanks for having me.
And good afternoon. I'm Doug Anthony. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Talent Development in Prince George's County Public Schools. Glad to be here.
Doug, Prince George's is one of the 6 Wallace districts involved in developing a principal pipeline. Can you give us a description of the program and the components that make up the program?
Sure, Andy, absolutely. So the Wallace Principal Pipeline Initiative is grounded in 4 components. The first, defining leadership, which is connected to our leader standards. The second is high quality pre-service training. The third is selective hiring. And the fourth is on-the-job training and evaluation. In addition, we're always mindful of the ability to look at capacity, alignment of our work, and the quality of our efforts. As far as Prince George's County goes, in terms of leader standards, we developed 8 leader standards for the first time in our history as a school district to align all of our expectations, our job descriptions, professional learning experiences, and then, of course, the evaluation system for all administrators and aspiring administrators in the district. In terms of our pre-service programs, we're extremely proud of our leadership development programs, both of our partnerships with universities and our internal programs, pre-service programs as well. One we're particularly proud of, both of our wonderful assistant principals participate in our Aspiring Leaders Program for Student Success, we affectionately call ALPS, which was developed in partnership with the National Institute of School Leadership. It's a district-run and designed program to prepare aspiring leaders. Selective hiring is the third component, and our principal selection process in the district has just evolved tremendously since receiving the grant. We've been able to accelerate a more rigorous screening process that not only has informed our principal selection process, but has also impacted our overall district approach to selective hiring. And then lastly, we have on-the-job training and evaluation. We have a revised evaluation system for all administrators, and we've developed a more strategic and intentional focus around our mentoring and coaching opportunities for all of our administrator and aspiring administrators. So when we applied for the Wallace Award, Andy, we were very intentional in outlining and highlighting the importance, the role the assistant principal has in our district. And how we develop assistant principals becomes increasingly important as we know that they're the most viable bench that we have for principal vacancies. And we have to think more thoughtfully, if you will, about succession planning and management. And so hence we've been very focused on developing our assistant principals.
Great, thanks, Doug. Let's actually kind of get to know you a little bit better in terms of your leadership story in Prince George's. So what do you think's been the most significant event or activity that shaped your success as an AP?
Well, keeping in mind that I became an AP 10 years ago, the hallmark of my success, or the hallmark for shaping my success as an assistant principal was at that time our pre-leadership program. That program has evolved. That program helped to develop me in ways that I had no idea I needed to be developed, coming from leadership positions within my school. And so that program gave me the opportunity to have a think tank, for lack of a better term, with other aspiring assistant principals, and to sort of hash out the daily operations or managerial skills needed for leading the school or participating in the development team for leading the school, as well as working with teachers, developing capacity of teachers, working with parents, and working with students.
And for me, Andy, I have been afforded the opportunity to dive into the assistant principal role under the Wallace Foundation grant, and being a part of the ALPS program, Aspiring Leaders for Student Success, has been pivotal to my success, and learning the theoretical frameworks and the practical frameworks on how to be an effective assistant principal. When you talk about the theories, the ALPS program provides us the knowledge around our 8 leadership standards, and it prepares us on how to develop a culture, how to build inquiry around our stakeholders and systems and structures, and answering asking these questions to build our academic excellence and our high-performing workforce. In addition, the practical piece as far as sharing our experiences with our district leaders and our instructional directors and our principals. So when we prepare for that next step to become a principal, that all of those experiences will be shared with our district team.
Thanks. Let me go back. What does pre-leadership mean? You said that it was a pre-leadership program.
It was a program for aspiring assistant principals. It was a program that was developed and cultivated from the leaders within our county to give those teacher leaders who aspire to become assistant principals and eventually principals an opportunity to sit, to learn curriculum, to talk about real life situations, to do everything from how to write a letter to your parents within your school, to how to interview staff members, to how to have courageous conversations with staff members regarding instructional practices.
Now, both of you mentioned a couple of programs that are actual formal programs. Are there any informal ways in which you were developed?
Absolutely. The day-to-day operations of being an assistant principal most certainly helps to develop your leadership. Primarily collaborating with my principal and collaborating with leaders of our leadership team, collaborating with our parents to sort of create win-win opportunities for our students, helping our families to meet their needs, in addition to embracing and developing or cultivating partnerships within our community in order to help meet the needs of our students. Anything from uniforms to tutoring, those types of partnerships definitely support the teaching and learning in our building and eliminate some of the barriers to teaching and learning.
And Andy, with my informal learning, it came from the support from my building principals. Once I shared with them my inquiry of wanting to become an assistant principal, they have immersed me into teacher-led roles where I was the manager and teacher leader over certain programs. For instance, one of my principals allowed me to lead our senior class, and in leading the senior class, she allowed me and gave me the autonomy to develop activities, develop partnerships, and to lead adults in ensuring that all of our students graduate college and career ready. And with that, out of that initiative, I had made a requirement for all of our seniors to at least apply to one college and/or university. And since I led that initiative, that has carried on since I have left that school, and now I'm in my new school. So really that mentorship and that coaching from my principals was more of that informal learning and developing my capacity as a building assistant principal.
It sounds like it also developed the confidence.
Yes, yes.
So I think in both of those cases, you talked about the issues that help, but they basically build on your confidence.
Usually, and I think what's interesting about both Katrina and William's story is that they talked a lot explicitly and also more indirectly about the importance of mentoring and those informal mentors along the way. And so what we've been able to do is try to hone in on those opportunities and experience that had the most impact to develop a more robust mentoring program. In addition, the pre-leadership experience that Katrina talked about, I think helped formulate and was our early thinking around what are the skills necessary for those aspiring to become administrators, as well as those who are currently sitting in the seat as an assistant principal. And so we've evolved into the programs like ALPS and a few other programs, that I'm sure Dee or Jerenze can talk more about. But all of their learning continues to inform the work that we're doing with the system.
Please.
I think the great thing about Prince George's County is that we recognize the talent within and seek to develop the talent within ongoing. And of course that happens if you are formally selected to be in a program, and that happens informally. And so those relationships that you develop are so paramount to developing your leadership and your capacity to lead teachers, to lead students, to lead a building.
Thanks, Katrina. Damaries, how do you see the development of your AP pool contributing to the development of the principal pipeline, and how are the activities different now than they might have been before the Wallace Grant?
Thanks, Andy, for that question. I think we would all agree around the table that I think as a district, we've become more intentional on building the capacity of our assistant principal now in terms of meeting the needs of the assistant principal. We would all agree here that the principal pipeline begins with our teacher leaders, but it evolves into that AP position. In PGCPS, we believe in the research-based practice of offering support through a differentiated approach towards professional learning. And as a result of that, the Assistant Principal Leadership Academy was developed, and we fondly call it APLA. Not only do we offer monthly systemic meetings for all of our assistant principals throughout the county, we offer support and opportunities for our APs that meet them at their specific level of experience. For our novice APs, we have a program that we've developed called the Assistant Principal Induction Program, and that's the APIP program. This is a 2-year program that offers a variety of job-embedded experiences that focuses on building the capacity as an assistant principal. And then we have, for experienced APs with 3 years or more as a successful AP, we have the Aspiring Leaders Program. And I think you heard Doug mention that, and it's called the ALPS program, Aspiring Leaders Program for Student Success. And both Katrina and William were part of that program. ALPS is a year-long program that prepares APs for the role of principal. In addition to these programs, we have the Leadership Pathways program. And this program is unique because this is a program for assistant principals who have gone through one of our preferred provider programs, and that they are now continuing their development as an AP while they await a principal's position. So as you can see, we have decided to really address the needs of all of our APs in the district based on their level of experience.
Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit more about the differentiation piece. Why is it important? And or obviously it's important, but why have you all found it to be important? And what have you gotten from that differentiated approach?
Well, as far as, we've been working on trying to make sure that we are in tune with the assistant principal's needs at their level of experience. And I think differentiating always makes the learning more personal, mm-hmm. and really more in tune with your individualized needs as a assistant principal, or just as a learner in general. And so I think that the approach that we took was, again, long coming. As Doug mentioned, our programs have developed from pre-leadership to now we have ALPS, and it's extended into this now academy piece, which has the 3 different levels of approach. And I think Jerenze is going to talk a little bit more about our, wraparound approach towards development.
Well, Jerenze, you work pretty much exclusively with the principal development program. So how do you see the process working from the developing APs to the needs of new principals?
What we found with principals is that they can still use more development around the soft skills. So all of our administrators are very capable and strong in the areas of instructional leadership. But what is needed is that relational piece. And so communication skills are important, and we're developing our assistant principals around that, around building relationships and just being collaborative in nature once you step into that arena, because no one person can manage a school and run a school effectively by themselves. So you have to have collaborative efforts. And so we're instilling that in our programs with our assistant principals as we train them up. Also, around the relationships piece, we've partnered with the Arbinger Foundation, and we train all of our assistant principals around leadership and self-deception. And that's pretty much helping them focus on seeing people as people and not as objects. So that helps with when it comes to customer service and dealing with all stakeholders, as they leave their buildings. So that's what we really focus on, along with the 8 Prince George's County leadership standards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was just going to add a little to that, because I think one of the things that's been important in our district is that we have a state superintendent of the year leading the charge for us, and Dr. Maxwell, and he's been very intentional with the district in terms of really defining what our strategic plan will look like moving forward. And so it's helped us continue to unify and align the work that we provide for all employee groups, but in particular, aligning our work with the leader standards, aligning our work with assistant and principals in the district. And I think one of the things that's really important is that we have a continuity to how we provide support for assistant principals, aspiring principals, and principals, because it's a longer continuum. And so the more thoughtful we are about that, the better I think we provide opportunities for them in the future.
Now, in the beginning, you talked about the development of standards. So how does that development of standards, how does that go as a through line through the programs and to aspiring principals? And we're going to talk to you a bit about your career goals, but how does that standards, how does that fuel that?
Right. So what was interesting is that when we had our discussion and we involved our labor partners, we had former principals, assistant principals, all types of and engaged folks in the conversation around what they could be. And we developed our leader standards in concert with, of course, ISLIC standards, with the Maryland Instructional Framework. We even looked at Val Ed and the elements of Val Ed. We looked at a variety of things that we knew were important in terms of really trying to create a uniform approach to being able to assist an administrator develop over time. And so it's aligned to not only our job description, so there's alignment there, so expectations. So if you were to pull up Prince George's County principal description, you should see right on the actual description mention of the leader standards and how well folks can execute and have embodied those standards. In addition to that, it's related to our professional development. So all the programs that Jerenze and Damaries kind of defined and outlined for us are now connected through the leader standards. So if we're not touching any of the leader standards and we're trying to develop a program and it doesn't hit those things, it doesn't really fit in the context of how we're trying to grow administrators in our district. So we probably shouldn't waste efforts on those things. The same is true, Andy, for our university partners. So we're fortunate to have 4 strong partners right now, each in different stages of how we're developing our programs for aspiring leaders in our district. But all of them have to leverage the leader standards in their content and their curriculum in order for us to consider them a preferred provider. And so I think, you look at the professional development, the job description, the evaluation, the partnerships that we have, everyone uses those to undergird the work that we do in the district.
Thank you. So right before we got on, I heard you all talk about some of your aspirations. So do you aspire to the principalship?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. Both of us aspire to the assistant principal, to the principal position. And I think the hallmark for that, or the signal for my readiness, was acceptance into the ALS program. That sort of solidified and gave a stamp of approval for all of the work that we've been doing throughout the years. For me, for 10 years, working in various different schools with the different populations of students, as well as different populations or different types of teachers, their level of development, and parents. And so acceptance into that program with its rigorous application process was the hallmark, or the stamp, my stamp of approval to say, Katrina, you're ready to do this.
Well, let me ask you a little bit about that selection process. So what did you have to do to get into the program?
So we had to write based on our leadership standards, we had to write and describe what we do and align it to our Prince George's County leadership standards. That was one component. We also had to do a videotape of ourselves and submit that to kind of give the panel an idea about what we do and how we do it, what our leadership style is. Those are the 2 things, Blake.
Yes, it was the video recording, and we also had to write an essay as well. And just to answer your question, do I believe that I'm ready for that principalship? Through working with ALS, but most importantly, I want to stress in Prince George's County, they allow us to collaborate with other assistant principals across the state. So we held a assistant principal symposium at the beginning of this year, where assistant principals from the 24 school districts, we all collaborated and organized for collaborative work around how can we be better assistant principals. And just to hear some of the common structures and the common systems that we all are using, and some of the innovative systems such as Prince George's County is using, the other districts were excited to hear about that work, and for us to make that connection with our fellow colleagues in the state. And another reason why I believe I will be prepared for the principalship role, the frequent assistant principals professional development has been so effective for my growth. Our principals get all of the training, get all of the knowledge, but Prince County has catered professional development frequently, almost bi-monthly, for assistant principals. And the professional development is around the work around our strategic plan, and it's around the work of our school leadership goals, and making sure that we are in alignment with that work on a daily basis. So that's why I definitely feel that I am prepared to become a principal in our district in Prince George's County Public Schools.